Fortnite Season 4 is only weeks away, which means it's time to welcome gaming legends from all over the universe. Officially called Override, this season is stacked with new heroes, new powers, and a total reality swap. Brace yourself for a massive finale and the beginning of a new era. The tagline for the new season is breaking the rules and changing the game, which absolutely sounds like something crazy coming at breakneck speed. But the big question is, how do we even get there? The current island is crawling with sprites that hand out abilities to whoever grabs them. They rode in on the 0 point, and nobody's totally sure why they showed up. But the second they did, half the map started running deals around them. Cluster is the big player here, and he's knee-deep in shady business, sitting on more cash than anyone else on the island right now. One of those sprites actually threw in with the 7, which tells you everything about how rough of a spot the team is in. After losing so many people, they're basically taking whoever walks through the door. They even had to lean on Singularity for backup. She used to run with the imagined order until she figured out Jenna was pulling the strings behind the whole thing, and that was her cue to bail. What she has zero clue about is that Jenna is the one reaching out to her now, hiding behind the visitor's voice. The recruiting didn't stop there. Another familiar face flipped sides, and it's Dr. Sloan, once one of the sharpest agents the imagined order ever had. Now she wants in with Jones and the crew after Hope reaches out. Hope lays it out straight, that the 0 point has gone unstable. The 7 are rattled, and the odds are stacked against them, so they need the one person who understands the 0 point better than anybody. Sloan doesn't argue. She knows they're in no position to turn her away. While the Order sweats the new recruits, and everyone else stays glued to the 0 point, the two main villains are laying low. We already know where Geno is, and the Dark Voyager has parked a couple of his goons on the island while he maps out his next move. The clock is ticking on both of them though, because Jones didn't actually die in the finale. He's healing up inside a recovery tank that Hope is guarding, so it's only a matter of time before the whole thing blows open and Fortnite finally gets its endgame. On top of all that, Geno has one more headache, and it's the 0 point itself. Right at the tail end of the last event, we heard it call out for someone to find it. That line points us towards some character who matters to the story, but we still can't tell if it's the 0 point speaking or the Rift butterflies. The season is basically wrapping up now, and honestly, not a whole lot went down along the way. The main beat was Sloan piecing together the Collider week by week until it's finally done. The catch is that this was Geno's ask so he could get his hands on the 0 point. At the same time, he had us out capturing sprites since he needs them to power up his weapon, which meant messing with the cluster, the guy sitting on the biggest sprite stash thanks to Dylan, and that random John Wick signing. The Duck's grip might have slipped a little after John Wick's detour to Springfield, which happened because his dog bolted through a rift and dumped him there. We don't need to sweat the Simpsons for the actual story, though. Homer and the family are parked on the sidelines, and I doubt they crash the plot anytime soon, although I wouldn't bet against them popping back up in some blowout Chapter 7 finale down the road. Coming back to right now, we've got to talk about the squad the 7 have been rebuilding these last few months, because they started the year on life support, and they're nearly whole again. It opens with the Order, the first member we ran into on day 1, and once she teamed up with the Visitor, they managed to track down the Foundation. That gets you 3 names on paper, though realistically it's closer to 1, since the Foundation is lost somewhere, and the OG Visitor is really Geno running a long con. Even so, the roster is close to full with the new blood. Hope slots in as the Prophecy, Sloan as Innovation, and one of the sprites signed on as the Guardian. Once Jones wakes up, he'll almost certainly join, and on paper that gives you the 7, but I'll keep saying it, the Visitor is never truly one of them. A lot of you are wondering where the Foundation went, and after that event, his leader status makes him one of the biggest question marks left to crack. Problem is, the crumbs are thin. The only real hint all season was a loading screen with the OG Visitor casually tucking the Foundation's helmet under his arm. His old rival tells a clearer story though. The Ice King is stashed inside the Dark Voyager, because in the moment the Voyager beat him, he wasn't really finishing him off. He was soaking him up. That means we could see the Ice King make a comeback the second we take the Voyager down. Quick personal wish while I'm here. I'd love for the Ice King to jump in against Geno and bury the hatchet with his old enemy to ride with the 7. I think every fan wants that shot. An Ice King in a futuristic 7 fit would be an absolute heater of a skin. The only downside is the name would probably have to be something goofy like the Frozen one. But if you have a better name for him, drop it in the comments. Sticking with the roster, the last signing is Hope as the Prophecy. For years, she could read the future through her graffiti, but that gift went dark a few months back. Now it's switched back on, and that hands her 2 things. First, a ticket into the 7. Second, and way bigger, the answer to who's been behind everything going wrong for the team. That spark didn't come out of nowhere either. It traces back to a slip by the Visitor when the tampering on Jones's tank came to light. Somebody had spiked the chemistry to a dangerous level of toxicity, and the last person to touch it was the Visitor, meaning Jones would have been a goner if the team hadn't caught it. That discovery is what fired Hope's powers back up, and she covered the entire wall of her base, tracing the nightmares she'd been having, all of them centered on a dark, shapeless man with the Visitor's voice. She landed on the only answer that fit, that the man behind the mask is Geno, and that there's no beating him without Jones. That shadowy figure should ring a bell, because we already saw it inside the 0 point during the Chapter 3 finale, and it could easily show up again in the event we've got coming. We know Geno is going to appear this season to talk down to us from the sky through a rift. In that Visions graffiti we even caught that the zone the Voyager currently controls is going to open back up and the sphere will slide back into place. I never circled back to the sphere this season, by the way, and it mattered since it was under the Voyager's control too before we hacked it over to the 7 side, which turned out to be huge for building the artifact. The mural also shows the Foundation coming back, plus the ship and the sword from the finale still sitting in the water, though we've got no read yet on what part they'll play in the next big event. Saving the most important piece for last, let's get into the sprites. At the start of the season, nobody had a clue where they came from, but every arrow pointed at the 0 point. After helping Sloane and Hope dig in, we finally have our answer. These little things are basically kids of the 0 point itself. That's why they carry powers, and it's why they're about to be the whole ball game. As Hope pieces it together, she realizes the sprites are the key to bringing Jones back, which sends her straight to the Visitor's old research, where he'd used them to build the 0 point stabilizer. So Hope taps them to wake Jones, which flips the story on its head one more time and drags the fight against Geno toward its finish. Except Geno has a whole payroll working for him, like the Dark Voyager, who just touched down to hit the island. We're not totally sure why, but odds are it's a stall to keep us busy while Geno slips off the map to hide. That's what makes this fight personal, instead of just another scrap over the island or the 0 point. The Order knows taking her father down won't be easy. With all of that on the table, it feels like we're standing right on the edge of something massive. The season finale is about to rewrite everything, and 2 days from now, the new Geno story missions drop, which I'll obviously be covering on the channel. Fortnite has a stacked August lined up too, and I broke the whole month down, so stick around to find out even more.
New Island fusing different game worlds together will most likely show up the same way this current season did. And that event won't even be the last one, because the one that actually closes out the chapter is gonna be one of those mega events, which are hands down the best ones in Fortnite. This time, it'll land somewhere between November 28th and December 5th. And with the whole video game season sitting in between, we could be looking at a total before and after moment for Fortnite heading into Chapter 8. If they don't just straight up call it Fortnite 2 or something. I'm not gonna dig into that theory right now, because we're jumping straight into the list of possibilities for this season's historic roster. And luckily, we've already got a ton of collabs leaked. Keep in mind, some of these came from an Epic employee who's actually facing charges right now for leaking all this. We'll start with the safest bet, which is Kingdom Hearts. And not just because it's Disney property, since we already know how tight Fortnite and Disney are. But the real kicker is that there are already items sitting in the game right now, specifically tied to Rocket League. But like, you know, that's basically Fortnite 2, so yeah, Kingdom Hearts is probably coming this season if it doesn't drop even sooner. As for what it brings, if it's one of those collabs that shows up in the pass, we could get Destiny Islands as a location, and for a weapon, obviously Sora's Keyblade. Next up is Mega Man, one of the most recent leaks. The big question here is which design they're gonna go with. What I'm way more confident about is the item it could bring, since his arm cannon has to be in this season, no question. And for a location, I think the most iconic pick would be Dr. Wily's castle. Then we've got one of the biggest, if not the biggest, which is Minecraft. Obviously the skin would be Steve, and what it brings to the island is clearly that blocky cube look. Honestly, I wouldn't even rule out the whole island rocking that style, like the trees, the water, all of it, with the other collab zones getting their own designs. After that, we've got Crash Bandicoot. The skin's a no-brainer, and what it could add to the gameplay would be his classic crates. As for a zone, I really have no idea what it'd bring. Then another big one would be Persona, and honestly I'm not sure which character we'd get. I'm guessing Joker based on popularity, but they've got a pretty deep bench to pull from. As for an iconic island location, I've got no clue what they'd add, and same goes for weapons. Then there's another collab, which is Beyblade. Here we're back to a massive pool of characters and possibilities. For locations, I'm picturing a Beyblade stadium, and obviously the weapon would be the spinning top with the launcher, which I think would be a genuinely great idea since Fortnite could do a lot with that concept. Moving on to the next one, we're talking Yakuza. And if I'm not mistaken, I've been talking about this one for 2 years because it's been leaked forever. The first thing that comes to mind is the game's locations with that Japanese vibe. And for skins, I'm guessing they'd go with Kiryu, Majima, or Ichiban. There's also been talk of a second wave of Metal Gear, and here the loot situation is easy. Because just like in Chapter 5, they dropped the cardboard box, and luckily the actual weapons are the same ones Fortnite already has. The classic pistols and the suppressed ones are usually always in the game, and this season would have them if this collab gets confirmed. Actually, the next collab that also makes sense to have that weapon would be James Bond. This one's like Yakuza, where we've been talking about it hitting Fortnite for months and months. And honestly, it catches nobody off guard, since Rocket League already has a bunch of Bond vehicles that would obviously come to Fortnite the same day the skin gets confirmed. As for the character, I'm not totally sure which one they'd go with, but since we got a new game this year, they could adapt that version. And the last collab that's leaked but not confirmed, which brings us to the next batch, would be Silent Hill. The location's a lock, since it'd be Silent Hill itself. As for the character, it's pretty tough to guess because there are several games, each with a different protagonist. Now we've got to remember the 4 collabs confirmed with the Epic Games Store, though I'd say all of these drop before October. But if not, we've got the Sonic collab, specifically his racing game, though what we're all hoping lands in Fortnite is the skin. And if that character does show up for the next season, I'm pretty confident the item it'd add would be something that gives you speed to rotate around the island. The one I'm not so sure would get talked about is Godzilla, since they've got a game coming this month too. And this collab is already in Fortnite, so it could be a good moment to add more characters and even bring back the Chapter 6 Battle Pass skin, since that recently happened with the Marvel ones. After those, all that's left is the remix ones, Godzilla and the Crew's Turn. So timing-wise, it lines up pretty well for this collab to land right in November. And the last big game I could find dropping in November would be Crimelight, which honestly I'd never heard of before, so I have no idea what it's gonna be or even which characters they could add.
It's a complete collab season, in the same spirit as Chapter 2 Season 4, when Galactus took over the whole thing with Marvel, or Chapter 5 Season 4 that went all in on Marvel again with Doctor Doom. This time it plays out like that stretch right before the Zero Crisis, except now it's gaming icons flooding onto the island. How do we get to this season, you ask? Simple. The 0 point is destabilized right now. It's getting knocked totally off balance, which is exactly why the 7 are scrambling to build the stabilizer. The real question is whether that thing actually holds, and it does not look promising. Everything points to the 0 point spiraling even harder and ripping open portals into other worlds, and those worlds are packed with crossovers. Brace yourself, because word is, Season 4 brings collabs with Mega Man, Crash Bandicoot, Kingdom Hearts, and a whole lineup beyond that. Picture their season back in Chapter 2, when Fortnite crammed a ridiculous number of crossovers into one battle pass. Jonesy fired up his Rift device and pulled in the Terminator, the Xenomorph, threw in Street Fighter, and straight up the Mandalorian. That's the energy here, only this time we could be getting the most requested collabs in the game's history. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the biggest names in gaming, and there's a real chance it finally shows up in Season 4. The Battle Pass started leaking too, and from those same sources, the Season 4 pass is rumored to headline Sonic. Epic already confirmed he's coming to the game, and now it sounds like Season 4 is where he lands, sitting right at the top of the pass as the marquee crossover. That would be massive. Better yet, he wouldn't just be some sidekick. We're talking a full character skin. Either they stretch his legs out so he stands at normal skin height, or they stick him in a mech suit the way they've handled every other character who was too tiny to fit the game. Like the current season, Season 4 is loaded with content drops, 4 updates in total. That number could shift, and maybe they tack on a 5th, but 4 alone tells you this is a heavyweight season and not some filler stretch. But Season 4 isn't the only thing that's spilled. Chapter 8 might have already leaked, and it sounds absolutely lunar. Cast your mind back a few years to when Donald Mustard dropped a video and quietly buried the words "Last Reality" into the background. Not long after, we met the aliens, the Last Reality, the Cube Queen, the Herald, and the Nothing. That whole faction became our sworn enemy, the crew that wrecked us back in the day, and honestly still has us on the ropes today. Years later, somebody new picked up that torch, and it's Chris over at Epic Games. He's basically running the same playbook Mustard used to, except he's doing it even sharper. The guy drops flat-out deranged story hints, and lately he's been teasing the Nothing directly. Ever since Chapter 7 kicked off, the clues have been everywhere. Eyes staring back at us, signs and billboards whispering that the Nothing is watching, that there's nothing to see here, with the word "nothing" standing in for the entity itself. Those boards are still scattered across the island talking about it, and the Nothing has never once been teased this aggressively. On top of that, he didn't just tease the Nothing showing up, he teased the final reality. My read, and a lot of people are landing on the same idea, is that Chapter 8 is the final reality. We've spent this entire journey inside Reality Zero, the reality of the 0 point, the place where everything began. Well, there's a mirror image of that. The final reality, the command center, the home base of the Last Reality aliens. If Chapter 8 really is set there, we might finally go toe-to-toe with the true Last Reality, meaning the Nothing itself, backed by the Queen we've never managed to beat, and the Herald who's almost certainly still breathing. That would be an unreal payoff to a storyline Epic started building years ago,